The files passes the House, it will then go to the Senate, and then if it passes the Senate, it goes to Trump's desk where he would be forced to sign or veto it, which would be a very embarrassing way for him to learn how a bill becomes a law.
Eva Longoria and America Ferrera aren't just beautiful, talented actresses. They're also two people who your future president, Donald Trump, can't wait to deport.
It started off just like any normal night, nothing unusual, until comedy's two wildest troublemakers decided to take aim at the one guy who absolutely cannot resist a spotlight: Donald Trump. Jimmy Kimmel and Ricky Gervais didn't just tease him, they went after him so hard the audience literally froze for a second just to breathe. It makes you wonder what pushed them that far, what Trump did to set both of them off at the same exact moment, and why the whole room suddenly felt like a comedy battlefield erupting in real time. And trust me, you're about to find out.
To be fair, it's not like Trump doesn't care about people. I mean, he has a lot of empathy. He's feeling especially bad right now for the family of the newly decrowned Jeffrey Epstein pal, the now former Prince Andrew.
Does that not tell you everything you need to know about Donald Trump?
I wasn't political till about 6 months ago. I wasn't interested in politics.
Really?
But now I'm just fascinated. Let's not talk about him, though.
That's fine. Let's talk about
The whole night kicked off with this little smile that didn't just hint at humor. It warned the room that something massive was about to blow up. It was that kind of smile that turns a stage into a blast zone and the audience into witnesses. One breath, one perfectly timed pause, and then boom, Jimmy Kimmel dropped this comedic explosion right on Trump, turning him into ground zero for one of the wildest eruptions the show had ever seen.
Representative Massey says he's concerned that the Epstein probe you are calling for could be a smokescreen to block the release of more files. Is that the case?
Well, I don't want to talk about it because fake news like you're a terrible reporter, and fake news like you, they just keep bringing that up to deflect from the tremendous success of the Trump administration.
That's right. Enough with the deflections and the distractions. Let's talk about my new ballroom at the White House.
Before we go any further, if you're enjoying this, make sure you hit subscribe and tap the bell. Now later on, Ricky Gervais walked onto the stage like a man who could smell disaster, and honestly, kind of enjoyed it. He didn't ease into the topic, he sprinted right at it. He tore into Trump like someone who hadn't eaten for 2 days and just found a buffet. It was fearless, it was wild, and it felt like watching a modern-day gladiator enter the arena ready to swing.
I think, what if we just told him he got in? So he gets up every day, and he does a little address, and we go, yeah, it's brilliant, I'm the president, and they're all extras.
Right.
They're all extras, and he just never knows. He was never president.
And we're filming it and watching it.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be amazing.
Oh, that'd be
wouldn't it?
amazing.
I think he'd be up for it.
I bet he would.
Yeah.
Kimmel came back into the chaos with this perfect mix of surgical precision and I don't care if I ever get invited anywhere polite ever again. He broke down every expression on Trump's face like a scientist studying a brand new species, squeezing jokes out of the smallest gesture, the slightest posture, even a tiny twitch. It was methodical and reckless at the same time, and the crowd was eating it up.
About Epstein has resulted in the most shocking celebrity breakup since Hall versus Oates. Trump announced yet another divorce, this time with the former president of his fan club, Marjorie Taylor Greene. He wrote, "I am withdrawing my support and endorsement of Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene." He's so upset he couldn't even come up with a decent nickname for her. He wrote, "Wacky Marjorie Trader Brown."
At first, the crowd didn't even laugh. They gasped, shocked that he actually went that far. And that moment of stunned silence made him grin in this wicked horror movie way. Then Gervais jumped in and treated Trump's whole public life like some tragic comedy trilogy nobody asked for, full of plot holes, unnecessary sequels, and special effects powered entirely by ego. It was brutal, and hilarious at the same time.
America. No. What's happened is, when you've had privilege so long, equality feels like oppression. They're basically saying, some people want some of our equality.
Yes.
Well, of course they do. The man who was scared of a tame eagle.
Yes.
So this is not a brave man.
But he believes it, though, doesn't he? That's the weird.
I don't know if he does.
You know, just...
I think he's got that childlike narcissism that he sort of, if he says it, it sort of might be true.
Kimmel turned the whole thing up even more by digging into Trump's addiction to drama. That instinct he has to turn anything, literally anything, into a full cinematic showdown. A normal day suddenly becomes a season finale. A random moment becomes a conspiracy thriller. Kimmel replayed it with so much exaggerated intensity that the crowd roared like they were watching a blockbuster. Every line landed like an explosion. Meanwhile, Gervais wasn't slowing down at all. He painted Trump's public appearances like grand military parades built entirely around Trump celebrating himself, complete with imaginary fireworks and invisible spotlights. And the more dramatic he made it, the harder the audience fell apart laughing.
Andrew in the UK has had his royal titles stripped away because of the Epstein scandal. I know you're close to the royal family there. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I feel very badly. I mean, it's a terrible thing that's happened to the family. That's been a tragic situation. And it's too bad. I mean, I feel badly for the family.
That family he feels bad for. The ones losing their food stamps, they're going to be fine. Don't worry about it. This is like Bill Cosby feeling bad for R. Kelly, okay? Prince Andrew.
Then Gervais matched Kimmel's madness by turning Trump's media presence into this epic movie narrated by a giant choir and a massive orchestra. Like the universe literally woke up each morning just to salute Trump brushing his hair. It was so ridiculous and vivid that the crowd was crying from laughter. Kimmel then went after Trump's social media habits like an archaeologist discovering ancient caps lock carvings. Trump on a smartphone? He described it like a cowboy firing pistols at high noon. Fast, loud, and completely unstoppable. And every typo became a national event. Gervais countered by describing Trump's business persona as a motivational seminar being taught on a carnival ride, where Trump could introduce something as simple as a lemonade stand with the same energy you'd use to announce a moon landing. The crowd practically lifted off their seats from laughing so hard.
I think there's a bit of troll about him.
And there's no one in his life to tell him that he's being a wazzock.
He's never had to do or achieve anything in his life. This is a man, people fell for him because he was a good businessman. Well, actually, someone looked at it, right, and they worked out that if he'd have just put his acquired, inherited wealth on the top 50 stocks, he'd be $6 billion richer than he is. So he's effectively lost money over his...
There was a libel. Someone said he's not a real billionaire. He sued them and lost.
Kimmel then zoomed in on Trump's walk, a movement so dramatic it felt like it needed its own security escort. He mimicked the slow turn, the pose, the stare, every tiny detail, and the audience just lost their minds. Then, Gervais jumped into Trump's speech patterns, delivering them like a non-stop action movie trailer. Ordering food suddenly sounded like a national emergency. Saying hello sounded like a revolution. Even standing still felt like a threat. The crowd wasn't just laughing, they were screaming. Kimmel brought the tension back up again by tearing into Trump's obsession with crowd sizes, acting like the whole world was required to admire him. The audience was barely holding themselves together.
His royal status, he's been demoted to, I think he's the Archduke of Frimplepants now or something. Trump's claimed that he doesn't know Prince Andrew, and yet there are dozens of photos of them together. Here's just one of the many. I don't know if, what happened to Andrew in that photograph, but here's one of then Prince Andrew walking away from Trump. And look who else is in the picture, peeking in from the corner. You got convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell, who Trump wishes well and just had moved to a much more comfortable prison. And then lurking in the background, none other than Trump's BF Jeffrey Epstein.
Kimmel came back imagining Trump's interviews as emotional roller coasters, full of bragging, complaining, fame, destiny, and random self-applause.
It felt dangerous, not physically, but comedically, because everyone knew Kimmel was pushing every line, and the crowd loved it. Gervais followed up by turning Trump's victories into medieval legends where even the smallest achievement became some heroic conquest, sung by magical choirs. It was so over the top, the crowd was howling like a stadium losing its mind. Kimmel then acted out Trump's obsession with winning, making him seem like the kind of guy who could turn a toddler's balloon-popping game into the Super Bowl. Adults were wiping tears from their faces. And then he hit the big finale, portraying Trump's self-belief like some cosmic law that he treated like gospel. The laughter literally echoed like a riot.
You may remember, he promised to lower grocery prices on day one, and of course he hasn't, but he is focused on other more important stuff like magnets.
Magnets. If China refused to give magnets because they have a monopoly on magnets because they were allowed to happen over a 32-year period, there wouldn't be a car made in the entire world. There wouldn't be a radio. There wouldn't be a television. There wouldn't be internet. There wouldn't be anything because magnets are such a part. Now, nobody knows what magnets are.
They don't? No. I could have sworn I've seen them all over my mother's refrigerator.
Gervais wrapped his act by basically turning Trump into the ultimate comedy goldmine, someone whose public life produced unlimited material without anyone having to exaggerate anything. The room was hysterical, exhausted, overwhelmed, and somehow still wanting more. When the dust settled, it wasn't just a roast, it was pure carnage. Trump wasn't roasted, he was scorched, seasoned, grilled, and served with sparklers. Kimmel and Gervais didn't plan any of this together, but fate dropped both of their comedic explosions on the same night, aimed at the same man, while the whole world watched. Clips blew up online, memes multiplied, phones overheated, and Trump walked out not with bruises, but with spiritual burn marks he'll never get rid of.
It makes me laugh, right? When people get angry about someone on benefit, there's always a story. So someone on benefit, right? They're earning like 800 quid a month on benefit, and they could work. And so supposing that's true, supposing they're just lazy, right? And they're creaming off a few grand, right? Think of a billionaire who doesn't pay his tax. He's stealing 500 million from all those people from a cancer ward. It's madness. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the welfare state. I wouldn't be here. I got free education. I got free medicine. All my family got, and I wouldn't be here. So I don't even think of that as my money. I think it's half my money. I'm paying my rent.
Kimmel's shockwave was still echoing through the room, but he wasn't done. He rewound all the way back to the moment Trump first entered public life. Not in reality, but in typical Kimmel style, like a dramatic prophecy scene from a soap opera. In his version, Trump didn't walk into a room, he descended like a chosen hero with fireworks, fog machines, flashing lights, and a choir that absolutely wasn't there. The crowd collapsed with laughter. Gervais immediately added gasoline to the fire, turning Trump's interviews into dramatic sagas full of destiny and delusion, complete with slow nods and intense stares that meant nothing. It was so overacted, the whole room vibrated. Kimmel struck again with perfect comedic timing, pushing everything until the tension snapped into another wave of uncontrollable laughter.
In the middle of the night last night, he gave get-out-of-jail-free cards to all his cronies who were mixed up in the fake elector scheme. He pardoned 77 people last night, including Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell, the entire staff of the Four Seasons Total Landscaping, and the dildo shop next door. They announced the pardons in the middle of the night because, if they do this during the daylight, Rudy's skin bursts into flames.
Gervais closed the night by describing Trump's communication style like a movie director who replaced every ounce of subtlety with explosions. In his version, Trump didn't speak, he made proclamations. Everyday comments became cinematic events, like humanity was sending its final message before a galactic war. The room couldn't stay composed. Kimmel hit back by mocking Trump's habit of celebrating himself, turning simple victories into global parades inside his imagination. If Trump folded a napkin, he'd picture a statue being built in his honor. If he finished a sentence, he'd imagine history books covering it like a milestone. The crowd laughed so hard it probably should have required oxygen masks. Then Gervais delivered the final blow with the confidence of someone standing at the top of Comedy Mountain. And that's when the whole night turned into something bigger than humor. It became a moment. Trump wasn't just roasted, he became the biggest comedy prop on the planet without even trying. Kimmel and Gervais didn't plan the collision, but when their storms hit the same night, the world reacted instantly and explosively. And the memory of that night is going to live online forever.